In this tutorial, we will show you how to optimize your solar production and sell back to the utility grid. Note, these settings will apply only for FXR and Radian A and E inverter chargers. Before the inverter charger begins to start selling, there are a few things that need to be qualified. 1. The inverter charger has to be connected to a stable AC source. The inverter will complete a 5-minute handshake to make sure it meets the IEEE standard. Make sure the AC input LED from the Mate 3 is solid yellow, which indicates a connection to the grid. If you press the grid icon, then cell status, you can check the qualifying grid timer. 2. The inverter charger will need to go through a full charge cycle and allow the absorb and float timers to count down to 0. 3. Of course, it has to be sunny. Okay, now that we have established the fundamentals, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. From your Mate 3, press lock. Enter your password of 141, press enter. Select settings, inverter, then select AC input and current limit. Make sure your input type for the FXR or input priority for the Radians are set to grid. Press up once. Then scroll down to Grid AC Input Mode and Limits. Make sure your input mode is set to grid tied. If you have more than one inverter in your system, press the port button to adjust the remainder of the inverters to the same value. Press up once and scroll down to Battery Charger. Because the inverter charger must go through the absorb and float timers before we begin selling, we can actually drop the timers to 0 and sell back quicker without the need to wait for the timers to count down. Select the time values for both absorb and float and drop them to 0. Also, take note of your float voltage. You will need it in just a moment. If you have more than one inverter in your system, press the port button to adjust the remainder of the inverters to the same value. Press up once and scroll down to Grid Tie Cell. And here, you will want to make sure your offset function is enabled and your cell voltage set point is set 1 volt below your float voltage from your charger settings. If you have more than one inverter in your system, press the port button to adjust the remainder of the inverters to the same value. If you have an OutBack charge controller, such as a FlexMax 60 or 80, we may also set those to GT mode so that they can help the system sell. Press up twice, then scroll down to Charge Controller, then down to Grid Tied mode. Make sure this mode is enabled. If you have more than one charge controller, press the port button to adjust the remainder of the charge controllers to the same value. Press top twice to go back to the home screen. Press the inverter soft key below your home screen. From the top left corner, you will see the current inverter mode. If it says selling, that means you're selling back to the grid. If the mode says offsetting, it means you are not producing excess solar energy to sell back to the grid, but are producing enough to blend solar energy with your purchased power from the utility, thus offsetting your loads. Pass-through means you are powering all loads from the utility and do not have enough solar production to sell or offset. To summarize, system must be connected to a qualified AC source. The 5-minute IEEE timer counted down to 0. The absorb and float timers counted down to 0. AC input mode set to grid tied. Offset set to enabled. Cell voltage set to 1 volt below float. The input type or priority set to grid. Charge controllers set to GT mode. Congratulations! You are all done. Thank you for watching.